Hello there, welcome to 3Spoonies. We're your hosts, Karen, Jo and Claire. This is episode number 58 and we're discussing accessible website design. Join us as we dive in.
Running a business with hidden disabilities can feel incredibly lonely, especially in online spaces that constantly push hustle culture and perfection. That's why Maddy Alexander-Grout created the Maddyverse. Maddy is a visibility coach for hidden disability entrepreneurs and helps people become more visible, grow their audience, and build a business in a way that works for their brain, energy, and life. The Maddyverse is a free community for entrepreneurs with ADHD, autism, chronic illness, anxiety, burnout, and other hidden struggles who want to feel less alone while growing their business. It's a space for connection, encouragement, visibility, and honest conversations with people who genuinely understand the realities of running a business while navigating hidden disabilities. Because business should feel more human, not like a constant battle to keep up. The Maddyverse is free to join.
Hello, I'm Karen from Pony Pony Pony.
And I'm Jo from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
I'm Claire from Black Veil Stationery.
And we're 3Spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. This week, we're joined by Chris Naylor. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Would you like to tell us a bit about you and what you do and why you're awesome?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the why I'm awesome bit, but yeah, my name's Chris Naylor. I am the owner of a business that I set up approximately 5.5 years ago now, called Bnode Limited. We are an ethical digital marketing agency that focuses on basically doing business in the right way, trying to make accessibility the norm and making it so that, it's what's right in the world as a business and as somebody who wants to enjoy life.
Fair, valid. Yeah. Usually we'd whoosh over to Jo for the questions, but she's feeling a little poorly today, so we're just going to have an unorganised scrum of questions, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
So, first question. Are there any tips for accessible design that you still see passed around that are out of date or not actually that helpful?
Oh, that's interesting to begin with that you'd mention about out of date. So in the UK, there's no laws with regards to digital accessibility. We've got an Equality Act of 2010, but I think the date says it all in that. And some elements of it people look towards to include with digital. But again, it's not law. It's something that isn't really taught in schools and colleges that much. I've done guest speaking at several of them, and when I've gone in and said, if they've got a project that is to build a website, their very first website, and I'm talking, I remember mine being on Notepad and MySpace and all that business, but this was like, their first website, and who's thought about doing digital inclusion or designing for accessibility. And you can get in a class of 30 odd young learners, the last one that I was at, there was one person that put their hand up. And when I asked them and said, well, why, what made you think about it? They said, oh, well, the line height. And I was like, great, what made you think about doing that? And they said, well, I'm dyslexic and I struggle with it. So literally, it wasn't a taught thing. It was an experience that had led them to go, well, actually, with my designs, I'm going to do that. So in answer to your question, it's not really taught at schools and colleges. In my previous role as a director for an agency in Manchester, I built a wing up, and most of the people through interview stages, I was saying, do you know if it was Photoshop developer designers or if it was web coders? I said, what do you know about designing or building for people with disabilities? It was quite a lot of people would say no, whatever their background had come from. So yes, there's some guidelines out there. There's what they call WCAG, and they are guidelines that the UK has to what is good accessible design. You can find that online. It's quite easy. And that'll say things like, make sure your font isn't too small, your buttons aren't too close together, think about the colours that you're using. It's a guideline, but again, it's not enforced. And to me, those guidelines are a great starting place, but it's not enough. A lot more that can be done rather than just saying, make sure these things are in place.
So that's a great starting point. Though I would like to interject with a slight tangent. When you mentioned like building your first website, my school, I was the first time they ever did a proper IT course, was the first year I did it as a GCSE. And we had a choice between Dreamweaver and here's a textbook with some HTML.
I thought you were going to say GeoCities with the blinkies.
It was, no, yeah, I've seen those as well. But no, it was, do you want to learn to code?
Yeah.
Most people chose Dreamweaver. I was learning HTML, and I still remember bits of it. But yeah, of course, that was in the 90s, very early 2000s, where everything was very flashy, very in your face, absolutely terrible, and probably not accessible in any way.
Yeah, my first website was using frames, so the accessibility of it
Frames.
was absolutely shocking. This was quite a while ago, I have to say. It was also my school's mock website, which we replaced with the real website for months before anyone noticed it had been changed to Westcliff High Security Prison for Girls. So that was me. I done it. But yeah, there was not a lot of tools out there. It was like you said, either do it from scratch or use this template, which
Yeah. I mean, even when I started doing WordPress websites and, touched on things like Wix and Squarespace, which I very much hated from the start. I'm going, no, it doesn't do what I want it to, leave it alone. Or I couldn't make it do what I wanted to, whereas I could in WordPress. And it was really weird because I'd come from a background of, no, it's all right, I'll just code it myself, to then be on a drag and drop, like WYSIWYG type thing. Obviously, it's probably better now because, you've got all your accessibility options that probably still don't go far enough. But sorry, that was my tangent. I will shut up now.
no, you're good.
I think it's relevant just to jump in on that. So I feel I was quite lucky. I was when I went to university, it was the first course or joint first course in the UK to do anything with web building or design. I'll drop a name now. It was called Multimedia Graphics. And literally they just went, you do computers. Here are computers. And it was, I learned
That was
to
what
do
my
3D
GCSE was like.
modeling, build 3D modeling, websites, databases, Photoshop. They literally just went everything you would need to sort of be in this industry. And again, showing my age, I graduated in 2000. You've probably got listeners here that were born in 2000. But I graduated in 2000 on that course. Again, so yeah, I learned to code in Notepad with raw code. I was there for when Dreamweaver came out, Flash came out. There was something called Director, I think, that was out at the same time as Flash, and it was like, which path are you going to take with that?
I learned Director in my college course. I got an A for that one.
Yeah. So it was good. And, it's put me in good stead, I think. So I've spent half of my career being the person that's done the do, being the one doing the web, doing the coding, moved into doing things like, I suppose Google AdWords, paid media, social media on the socials as they've come out. I've been lucky enough to kind of be a part of it all and see it grow. And then again, in my last role and this role, to be more in a kind of a management role of hiring others in that do the do, but taking on more of a sort of strategic path, but allowing me to be able to sort of sit down and support the team. So, someone that perhaps has come out at a later date and never really done a line of code themselves, but they know WYSIWYG stuff and they understand base code, but to be able to sit there and go, well, actually, I might not know the most up to date because I'm not the coder, but what I can do is say, well, let's think out of the box because I can take it right back to how code works and that side of stuff. So I feel quite honoured and blessed that I've been there and gone through the journey right from the start, really.
Yeah, I think those skills do stand you in good stead. It's like at one point I was really good at knowing the hex code for like every colour. It was like my superpower, and you don't need to do that now. And these two will tell you I'm really fussy about things like that. But yeah, I think there are some things that are easier now, but I think sometimes that back to basics, knowing what works and what goes together well, that's something it can take a long time to teach. Whereas if someone comes in with that approach and they need to learn how to do it, that can be easier. If they've got the thought process in place, that can be a good starting point. Sorry, that wasn't the question. That was just a long, rambly statement.
I think it's really important, though, that it's in itself, yeah, your statement there is relevant because, again, people have gone, well, if you look at things like UX out there and all that, you could do whole courses in it now, can't you? It's like you can do still. I've done an entire university course in looking at user experience, or an entire course on coding, or coding for games, coding for this, coding for that, which I think is great. And I'm sure that they're filling a lot of things in for that. But that general knowledge and understanding for me, yeah, has helped a lot because I can sit and relate to different groups, different people, and just thinking in a particular way stops you from being so blinkered and siloed, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you find that when people are building websites and accessible websites, that having that base knowledge of how to build is the better starting point, or people coming from a point of everything needs to be accessible? Is there a difference?
Yeah. Yeah. So just yesterday, actually, I was talking to somebody about their site, and it was a potential client. And I was saying, look, this is what we do. If you're ever thinking of either, having a brand new website or looking at what you do. And they said, oh, the timing's wrong. We're currently in the process of building our site at the moment. But maybe once it's built, we can chat about the accessibility side. And I had to reply and say, I'm not pushing, but if you build it, and then we look at the accessibility side, there's so much more work that could end up needing to be done. And it's not just a kind of, well, have I remembered to put alt text in there on the pictures for people that are using page readers that are visually impaired to a point of perhaps being blind. Or it could actually be a lot more. There's things like implementation of the page structure. So when someone is using a page reader, it's actually been built in a way that orders it from top to bottom, because the amount of websites that when you use these drag and drop builders, or somebody just gone, well, right, I'm going to do the main bit of the page first, and then this, that, and the other. Then I'm going to go, oh, well, now let's have a look at the navigation. I'll build that bit. And now let's just look at the bottom of the page and the contact page, contact aspect at the bottom. And as they build the site and design the different aspects in a priority that they feel, it can be that when that website goes live and someone's using a page reader, the first thing that they read isn't the top of the page; it's down in the middle, and they're bouncing all over the page, going, "What?" And it can be like, well, right, you need to think about that hierarchical sort of structure in what you're doing. You need to look at the markup that's on all of those bits to say, look, this is a list, so it needs to say this is a list on it. And again, if people haven't put those into place because they've not built them as a list, they've just built it as text and content. And when it comes to people using those page readers or a navigation section, it's all over the place, and it's not easy for people to use it and understand it in that way. I always think it needs to be baked in at the start. Sorry on that. It definitely needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, as you said, it
completely.
had to be baked in. I was literally thinking, you wouldn't make a cake and look at the recipe and the ingredients halfway through. You start at the beginning
and go,
Yeah.
oh, it needs to be gluten-free. Whoops, let's take out the flour molecules.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it totally makes sense. I mean, again, doing SEO is a big important thing for me, because if you've got a nice shiny website, you want it to be ranking there and people to see it. So I always do discovery sessions at the start with somebody. It's like, right, well, who are you? Who's your competitors? What are you doing? What's important keywords for you? And in doing all of that, that builds the navigational structure. That builds a kind of path and a journey for, say, well, in some cases, when this person's marketing, their landing page might not be that home front page. It could be, well, if their SEO's done well, or if they're doing social work and they're navigating direct to one of their core, say, product pages or something like that, that accessible journey's got to be right from that page onwards. It can't just be, well, I've made my homepage look nice or work correctly. So again, it all ties into one to going, well, how can you even build a site without thinking of how people are going to navigate it when they're on there? It's beyond me. How it can't be done.
It's odd in a way how it's not took. Because I remember this was back in the Stone Age when we did sort of access and databases, and we were told things like, think about what the buttons actually say. Like sometimes you'll see a button that'll be like, get in there. And it's like, what does that mean? Does that mean sign up for something? Do I have to pay money? Or like, don't just make error messages insulting, make them useful, because we'd all put error messages that went, you're an idiot or something, but that doesn't actually say what you've done wrong. And I think that's sort of thinking through sort of the user journey, like what are the important bits to the user, or have you put things in the way, like burying the lead a bit, I suppose. Like I saw one website, it had all the pictures were on a carousel, and it did this weird thing that if you had a screen reader, it'd start reading the alt text, but then it would jump to the next one. And I don't know if that, like, if you were hearing that, if you'd think it's broken or just what is this nonsense, but I can't imagine you'd think, I'm going to stay on this website that's blaring this random information at me in the hopes of finding what I actually need to know.
Yeah. I think on that as well, a lot of my clients or people I engage with are on the spectrum in one way or another, and it totally makes sense, because it's not just when you say disability and you think somebody that perhaps is blind and needing to use a page reader, or in some cases perhaps they're paralyzed from the neck down or something, and they need to literally, to use the internet, go tab, enter, tab, and go through in that way. But people, obviously, they experience overwhelm, and so many websites, and it's still the case. You go, and if you were to say to somebody, what's a good website, they're like, you land on it and it's like, swoosh, swoosh, wow, look how great I am. And there's a video playing in the background, be it with music or not, and it's like, actually, no. What about landing on a page and your entire screen doesn't just come alive and is blasting out God knows what all over the place? So yeah, some people think that having a swishy website shows that they're a swishy company. And to be honest, for me, it's like, no, because you can look corporate without having to have all of that stuff sliding around. And you can also go, well, actually, someone isn't going to land on that page and just go, oh what is all this? Or why, what in that swooshing about? I can't read the text that you've put over the video because it keeps moving around, and there's a white bit on the video, then suddenly it's a black bit on the video, and it's unreadable.
Overwhelm can very much be a thing. And when I worked at the college, some of my students were obsessed with using PowerPoint for everything. And they've clearly been taught, do as much as possible. Like, the more there is, the gooder it is. So, have your background be a really detailed picture. Use like 47 different fonts and all the transitions. Or it's like, back in the day, you'd see websites with loads of word art. And it's like, well, that's lovely, but lots of people won't be able to read that. And I think sometimes there is that thing, I want to show off all the cool things I can do, and it's like, that's great, but you're not showing off what the website's for.
There's definitely a balancing act between sort of, this is the information I want/need to give you, because even then the information you can add random. It's way too much when you just go, I just want to know the thing, and making it look nice. And so it's like, it's not something a 5-year-old can throw together. My current modern hate is parallax scrolling. Makes me want to throw up. Hate it so much. But yeah, there's things like carousels, which will then remove the amount of room something's taking up. But then, is it then inaccessible? Is it then an issue? What happens when it breaks? I can tell you what happens when it breaks, because I've got scrolling things, and occasionally I'm like, why is my homepage so long?
Yeah.
Because something's changed and therefore it needs an update. And you sort of, the more bits you've got, like cogs you've got working, the more likely it is to go wrong, and then it's inaccessible again to somebody, even if you've thought about all the things.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes it can be easy for someone to look at a site and go, oh, it's a bit basic because it doesn't have all of the whizzy stuff. But when you look at it, you actually look at, take Apple, for example. I don't have Apple devices, and I've never been a big Apple fan. But what I will say is, if you go to their website, it's not just all black and white, but what they have done is they've put the majority of black and white, but stylized, and it looks clean. It's easy to navigate. It looks like actually they are a slick kind of thing. I mean, you look at a car these days, there's nothing weird or wonderful. They've not got loads of bits coming off them. They're usually one colour, and they've got some nice rounded corners on them, and it looks a bit swish, and it looks clean. It looks thought out from a design point. So yeah, you're right. You don't need all of this whizzy stuff in order to make it look like you know what you're talking about. And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, if you have a cleaner, easy to navigate website that someone goes, oh, this is nice. Oh, I can easily see this. Oh, when I scroll down, it doesn't do that parallax thing and make me go cross-eyed. It doesn't need to, but it's got easy to navigate, easy to find, and still looks like that element of design has been put into it. You know, you're using typography, you're using careful, good use of fonts and the occasional highlights of color to bring in your brand. Makes a much more pleasurable experience than it does to going crazy videos all over the place. I'm giving away a load of secrets here, aren't I? Which is fine. I'm happy to do that. Totally happy to be doing that. You know, again, it's one of the reasons why I set up Bnode was because the last agency I was at, you know, we had some great big clients, some massive names, 30 odd team members, this, that, and the other. And yeah, I decided, well, it's not about just trying to make as much money in the world as possible or going, you know, here's some money. Great, thanks very much. We'll make you more money in the future. That used to be good for me, but I took a side step. It's not a back step. I took a side step to start again with a new agency that focuses on all of this kind of thing, because that's to me, that's what makes a difference. I've got to make a change. I've got to be a change maker, and I want ethics and inclusion to be at the forefront, and that's what is good business for me.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And in terms of sort of democratizing that knowledge as well, like I think it would be better for everyone if everyone knew what to look out for, and also to avoid sort of that visual noise. Like, you know, in the MySpace days, it would blast music at you and my profile would blast Faith No More at you. And if you couldn't handle that, you were not getting into my top 8, let me tell you. But I think some websites are like, it's like like, you know, you see those landing pages where you have to scroll for ages and it's like, Julie, 45 from Birmingham, thinks this thing's great. So does this person. Look at our reviews. Look at this. It's like, I want to buy the thing. Let me buy the thing.
That's why you're supposed to have the first button right at the top so they don't need to scroll at all if they really do want to buy the thing. Then you tell them all the information.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to buy some tights. Like, I don't care who made the tights as long as it's ethical. It's like,
to be fair, if it's a website that's really scrolly, especially on my phone, if I think I do more than 2 or 3 scrolls, I'm like, sod it, I'm out. Like, I don't want to know. And I will go, and it's really weird, I will kind of just forget about it. And I'll be like, where can I get it instead?
yeah,
So
so
it's
I'm,
interesting. Yeah. Just on that's quite interesting. You've got usually 2 types of people when they land on a website. The first ones, they land on a website and they follow the design pattern, which a lot of people know if they're designers is kind of like in a zigzag. In the UK, we start top left, then you zigzag down to the sort of right, then you kind of zigzag down to the bottom left, and you kind of take this pattern when you're reading a page. And you get some people that will start, so they'll go, oh, that's the name of the company. I'm over to their navigation. What's the first bit of content that's on the bottom left-hand side of the page? And then you get some people that land on a website and they instantly, be it on their phone or a desktop, they scroll. They don't even look at the top. They land and they start scrolling, which is really an interesting kind of user behavior that we get. So sometimes it's like, well, what is that? The first thing that they will see is when they've scrolled past what you call the fold, the bottom part of the page, and they're into your content. They've not seen your navigation. They've not seen your buttons. They've not done any of that. And again, it's an interesting kind of, what is somebody thinking about when they land on that page? Are they looking to go, right, I've landed on this page. What sections are at the top? Where do I want to go? Am I looking for a certain piece of information or not? Or I've landed on here. Well, let's just start scrolling because I ain't got time to start reading what they're about. So the quicker people will just go, right, bam, start scrolling. What can I see? What jumps out at me on this page?
It's the social media type influence, isn't it?
Is.
Something to stop me scrolling.
Yeah. What jumps out at me to start? And the first thing I do is I start scrolling down the page. So that's milliseconds that you used to get, which wasn't milliseconds. It was more than that way back when, of when someone lands on the page before they bounce off. Now is, well, when they land on the page and start scrolling, is your content interesting enough that is down as well? So Yeah, user behavior has definitely, again, changed over the years from the introduction of things like social media on what we do. And again, it goes back to that accessibility aspect. It's not just that homepage. It's not just what they see at the top of the homepage. It's your whole site. It's as you're scrolling down. It's as if someone goes direct into a navigation page. You can't just do it on the surface and go, there we go, we're inclusive.
I think that's good food for thought. So, on that note, let's take a brief break for some spoons full of loveliness when you can hear some lovely things for our sponsors and think about your website and how you could make it better.
Hi, I'm Liz Drury, and you probably recognise my voice as I'm the voiceover artist behind the 3Spoonies podcast adverts. If you're curious about the other services I offer, pop over to my website, lizdrury.com, where you can find out how I could help you with things like voiceover for videos, narration for online courses, announcements for events, voicemail greetings and on-hold messages, audio tours for museums, and more. That's lizdrury.com.
Where were we? Back in the room. So, in terms of user experience, do you think it's important for companies to actually get people in to test their website or ask their users or things like that? Or are there general assumptions you can make?
Yes, I think it's important for people to get their sites checked or have a look at them. A, for doing the right thing. B, for if they're looking for a way to get a USP over their competitors, if they're that minded, what can I be doing to get people to come and buy from me rather than buying from somebody else either down the street or who's ranking higher than me on socials? And I'm all up for it. I'm like, yeah, great. Well, why don't you be more ethical in what you're doing? Why don't you make it so your website is inclusive? So when people land on it, they go, this is great. I can read what I'm doing. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not doing that. There's a thing called the purple pound. I don't know if anyone knows of that. We've got some nods.
There is, and we will have someone on discussing such things very soon.
Okay. Well, the purple pound in an overview is of the financial amount that if you took all the families in the UK that have somebody direct in that family that has a disability, so be it the parent, one of the child, if you've got someone elderly that lives with you, if you added all of those disposable incomes up for that family that directly understand and relate what it is to have a disability, it's around about, and the last data that came from it is around about 274, 279 billion pounds in the UK, which is a lot of money. So they do reckon, even though it's not had a official check of nowadays, which again is perhaps about 3 or 4 years further on from when that figure was announced, that it might be double that, which again is a lot of money. So again, if somebody could say, well, how do I get a part of that pot? How do I make more money without necessarily have to introducing a new product into my line or doing a load of R&D? Perhaps you've got someone that makes perfume that's ideal for women, and they might go, well, let's do something for men. So we've got to do all the R&D behind it and create the new product and do it. It's like, well, maybe you're just missing out a huge element of your market that happens to be disabled. So again, when I speak to companies that originally are, well, I'm a business, I've got to keep the lights on, I've got to keep the business growing. How do I grow? I'm quite comfortable with saying, okay, if you're coming at it from a money point of view, why don't you be the ethical choice for your product and what you're doing? Because what I'm doing there is I'm bringing accessibility into a large company that's perhaps already doing something and looking for something new. So, when you look at it that way, it's a win-win, really.
Well, if we're all
So,
scroungers who are millionaires and go on 5 holidays a year because we're sponging, it's clear we've got
yes.
disposable income.
Well, yeah, when you get people that are looking for, what can I do to get an edge, that makes sense. Get your website checked for accessibility, because it is a thing. When you get somebody
it's
who's got
easier
an
to take
product,
an existing product to a new market than it is to develop an entire new product.
yeah, and I speak to people that are like, well, I'm a neurodivergent coach or want to become a coach, or you get people that say, well, I've got an ethical product that is a sustainable X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, okay, well, if you've got something that is ethically minded, your target market are those that either, care about sustainability or care about justice and disability in the world. Those kind of people will be your target audience. They'll be the ones coming to your website. So although you've got a great product or a great service that is ethical in its mindset, maybe you want to, not, it sounds rude to say practice what you preach, but maybe you want to make sure that those people that are coming to your website, again, go, yeah, this is for me. This person has thought about me. So yeah, that's, I mean, a few facts and figures on there. There's 2 million blind people in the UK. There's 3 million colorblind people in the UK. If you think about it, it's 1 in 12 men, 1 in 200 women are colorblind.
That is quite a difference.
It is quite a difference. It's all to do with your chromosomes and your XYs and your YYs or whatever they are. Again, I don't prefer to be too sciencey. If you're a man and you've got one of the X's and you've got a Y and your X doesn't work and it's your X that does your colour, then you've got one chance. Whereas with those born feminine, born female, sorry, they have they've got 2 chances for it to be faulty, shall we say.
That makes sense. Thank you. It's the A for science.
Yeah. So great that if you look around a room and there's 12 men in a room, you'll be like, well, one of these is colorblind. And it could be that you've put all this research into your buy now button, but your buy now button can't be seen because your background is a similar color or for that person. I think a lot of companies would be like, well, if you went to a website and their buy now button, you couldn't see it because it was broken, they'd be straight on straight onto their IT company to say, people can't buy my products, sort that button out. It's like, well, yeah, 1 in 12 men. Bam, there you go. There's a lot, if you look at, and that's like, those facts, by the way, are the colourblind fact is from colourblindawareness.org, million disabled people in the UK. That comes from Scope. There's a company called Disability Sport, which is an .org.uk. 2 million people in the UK are blind. There's a lot of people out there that want to use the internet, should be using the internet. And if they can use someone's site over somebody else's site, just makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And it's also, there are things that are helpful for most people. I've never met anyone whose life has been made better by a burger menu where instead of text, there's emojis. Like, I don't feel that's particularly helpful. Or things like lots of people will use dark mode on their phone, which can completely change how things worked. It was found out with the local bus app, there's a QR code you scan for your bus pass effectively. And what they hadn't worked out, if people are using dark mode, it switches the black and the white on the code so it can't be read. There's things like that could quite reasonably happen to any number of people who are or aren't disabled, that if you've not considered, things can break down. Like you said, 1 in 12 men, that's a lot of people, really. It really is.
I found that with my own website, because my phone is in dark mode. Actually, most of my apps and everything are, but my website isn't on the PC. It is on my phone. And so at one point I went to look something up. It's like, what's wrong with my website? And then I realized it was in dark mode, and it completely changes what it looks like. So now I have to consider that as well.
Yeah. I guess that goes back to what we were saying about building the site in the first place with accessibility in mind or not. Again, when I'm doing it here for clients, and we've got our team building it, the check process is exactly that. When you flick to dark mode, have you uploaded images that are transparent backgrounds because your site usually has a white background? If so, all those white bits are, could change color if somebody's flicking into dark mode. And when you do flick into dark mode, those things that are black and white, have you put the code in there to invert it? Not just that, it could be text as well. I've come across some sites that they go, oh, we've got this thing that allows us to do dark mode, and you click on it, and it's like, well, now you've got a black background, or your text isn't coded to switch as well, and you can't see it, or your text vanishes. So there's a lot that you have to think about, but when you start thinking about it, it all becomes quite apparent throughout your sites, other sites that you're viewing. It just jumps out at you.
What are your thoughts on the, I say, semi-recent accessibility plugins, which give you usually a little man side of a website
Yep.
where you can change everything
Are you going to get me
if it
excited
doesn't
now?
break your website?
You're going to get me excited now about this. So this is, and I think you've seeded this. I'm going to look at it and go, maybe you've seeded this because you've looked at our site, but
No, I think I've heard you talk about it before.
okay,
Possibly the
there we
very
go.
first time I met you.
Yeah. So the first thing that I did when setting up this business is I got myself and a team to work on the accessibility tool, and that is built into all of our sites as standard. So if you get a new website for us, you get this accessibility tool. So not only is the site built in a way that thinks about initial colors, letter spacing, overwhelm, things are labeled and marked up for people using page readers, but you get this tool as well. And yeah, it sits on the side of the site and it allows people to go on there to change font size, the color of the font, the color of the background. It allows you to change line height, letter spacing, and it's got a bunch of tools as well on there that do things like brings up a crosshair. So if you're dyslexic, you can see the page that you're on the line. If you're neurodivergent, you're easily distracted. There's a ruler on there that again allows people to be focused on where you are. Now, what do I think about these? I think ours is great. Of course, I'm going to say that. Ours is great because it's built into the site as standard. So the site is built to work with it. So when you make those fonts bigger, they don't all like overlap each other so the fonts don't become unreadable. When you change the background color, there's nothing on the site that has been coded as what they call like a BG image, a background image, so that when you change the background color, that image vanishes. There's things on there that when you change the colors that have been picked on it make it so you can't pick a red colored font with a red background, so you can't see it at all. Yeah, that option is there because anyway, it's put the control into the user's hand and they can change the colors to be what suits them. So of course there's going to be an option where they go red with red. Ooh, that doesn't work. But again, it's not the same hues. It's not the same color. So someone can easily go, oh, I've read it. Yeah, I'm going to click and change that. So what do I think about overlays? And I say overlays because they are the majority. There's a few firms out there that they work on a model where you give them some money, you pay them each month for it. It's usually about $40, and because a lot of them are American, and they go, there you go, you download this, and it tries to retroactively change the code on your website. I'm not going to go bashing them. I don't think that's very professional, but I will say every website that I've ever seen with one of these overlays has something that breaks on it, be it things like the fonts overlap or they don't work or it just doesn't structure. So that's the first thing. There's the European Accessibility Act that came out at the end of last year, which clearly states that these plugins do not make your website accessible. They are not classed as accessible. So if you try to sell any products to any or services to anyone outside of the UK, in the EU, then you could be looked at with this EAA Act if your website isn't classed as accessible. And that's similar to the Americans. They've got a thing called ADA, Americans with Disability Act. And although, yes, the current political state is moving away from accessibility, that act is still there and in place. So again, anyone that sells products or services into America could get sued with regards to their website not being inclusive. And they've clearly stated these overlays do not make your website accessible. So the monetary side of it, my core business, obviously, in saying if you're having a new website, it should have this all as standard. We do that as standard. Definitely, it's a tool that helps. The accessibility compliance, again, it's no laws in the UK that make it has to be, but there are for the EU, there are for Americas, and the UK is hopefully going to go that way at one point. It's the site itself, it's the design, it's the coding. You have to have that human touch in there to make sure. And even if you try and code with AI, all AI does is it copies what's currently out there, which the majority of sites aren't accessible. So if you think that, hey, AI, make me an accessible website, it's not going to do it. 100%, it's not going to do it. So that puts me in a point where the overlays aren't going to work. They're not right. It has to be done. It has to have that human touch. Yeah. However, ...
It's like if you are going to use them, see what it's broken when you do, and then fix it.
It's a good start for people that don't have the money to have a brand new website, or that have just had a brand new website done. They're like, oh God, if I'd met you, Chris, 6 months, I'd be a millionaire if I met people 6 months before I ever do. I tell you that. If I'd met you before, I've had seen what you're doing, Chris, oh my God, that kind of thing. But what I will say is they're a start. They're you trying to do something on your site that says, you know what, I'm trying to be inclusive. And, hats off to those people. Great. They're trying to do stuff. Though, sometimes those tools make it worse for people that are using assistive technology because they kind of sit overlaid of what you've done. So they can have what's called like gateways in them. If someone's going tab, 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 it could hit a point and stop because they've got one of these accessibility tools or this tool is trying to do something. A ... By the time this podcast goes out, in the future me will be sitting on exactly one of these overlay tools designed for WordPress specifically. So if you've got a WordPress website, it is designed to work with WordPress, including things like WooCommerce and that. Part of our business model for it is that it is manually checked. So when someone does say, I'm going to have your WordPress plugin, they're going to download the plugin because they want to be doing something. They want to be more inclusive. The difference is I've got real human beings that will check. So 21 days after buying the plugin and submitted it for review, we will physically check it to make sure that that plugin is fit for purpose. If not, we will say to you, if you've got a developer or you're designer yourself, please read the documentation on what you need to do. If you've done some whizzy stuff on your WordPress site and it's not working right, these are the sort of things that you need to look out for and how to make it work right. If somebody wants to do that, brilliant. If they want to pay us to do it because, maybe time or the developer's not got skills or something to that effect, it's a service we can offer to make it fit for purpose. And if someone says no after those 30 days, we'll say, well, thank you very much for your interest in the plugin, but we are going to suspend the plugin. Thank you for your interest. And if they've paid for like a 3 month or a year for it, we'll refund the rest of the money. Because I'm not out here to just have a model where you just get a download and go, thanks very much, keep paying us. It actually needs to be fit for purpose. So there's a little plug. That's what I think about the overlays. I think that it needs to have the corporate social responsibility that if you're doing it, if you're creating an overlay, you have to make sure it's fit for purpose.
Yeah, I like the flexibility with things as well, because I'll set all of my defaults up and 99% of websites won't actually change. And every now and then I'll go onto a website and go, oh, they've got the same font as me. And it's like, oh no, they let me change it. And I have a green filter on my screen because I'm dyslexic and I genuinely forget it's there, despite the fact it's really dark green, which does occasionally mean I buy things in the wrong color because I've forgotten that. But generally, if there's something that can work with my settings, that works better, because it's very hard to pick design elements that are going to work for everyone. So it might help someone, it might make it harder for someone else.
Yeah. And if you go to again, from an inclusion point from a company, if your company's all for like hot desking or something like that, and you're in that company and you're like, you know what, I need assistive technology. I need a physical green screen to be able to comfortably read what I'm doing. The way I see it is a company themselves, if all websites had an accessibility tool like this, you could hot desk on anything. You could go to anyone's website and go, make the background green. You don't have to be at your computer. You don't need to have your personal phone that you've set up in a certain way. You could just go, well, I can use a machine wherever I am because the onus has been put on that company. I mean, I'd love to live in a world where people, go on company websites and they say, where's your accessibility tools? The same way that they would go like, where's the contact button? Where's the contact form? Why not? Why shouldn't we live in a digital world where that is the case? When you go to buildings, and although we're not the best in the world, a lot of physical buildings, they have an accessible door. You can get, if you're in a wheelchair, you can get in, or you've got a lift if they've got more than one floor. I'm not saying we're there yet. We're still miles away. But from a digital world, we are miles away when it comes to inclusion.
That sounds like an amazing place to wrap it up.
So much more to say. So much more to say.
Yeah. go contact Chris and go steal his brain and get everything from it. Obviously, he'll be back with us next week anyway. But yeah, Karen, would you like to wrap us up?
Yes, don't actually steal his brain if you are the Migo, because it works better not in a jar, just to clarify, because we may have some intergalactic listeners or viewers. So, Chris, would you like to plug anything? Is there anything people should know about, any particular services or any exciting things you're doing at the moment? The moment being slightly in the future.
Yeah, future Chris will hopefully thank present Chris. I think it's that accessibility tool. I think is the main thing. Since I started the business, so many different networking events I went on, people like, wow, can I have that on my site? And it was more of a sort of premium offer for originally. Just if you need a whole new website, it comes part and parcel. So it's been a year of investing time, money, and energy and effort into making this an actual thing, along with that fit for purpose thing. So yeah, I'll just say anyone who's got a WordPress website, if you're looking for it, it's bino.co.uk. You can go onto the website in the future, not right now, to have a look. And I guess the thing is, yeah, look, I'm doing this. My business isn't to make loads of money. If I wanted to make loads of money, I would have stayed where I was, in a nice, cushy, good directorship role with a big team, loads of clients and all that. This is about making a difference. This is about bringing inclusion into the now and doing the right thing. I'm pitching our plugin tool at like £25 a month. So if you want to pay £25 a month, it's a lot doable than paying for a brand new website, for a few £1,000 kind of thing. Give it a go. There's no contract. You can have it for a month, set it up. If it works, brilliant. Have it for 3 months. I'm also pitching a load of social stuff with it. So when you get the plugin, you get 28 different social things that say stuff like, did you know 1 in 12 men are colorblind? We've just put this plugin on our website that helps because of X, Y, Z. So you don't have to think or worry about that. You can rely on it because you know that your tool and anyone else that's got it, it's going to be fit for purpose because we check it and we make sure. So there's going to be that credibility. And yeah, be a part of a movement, be a part of an accessible and ethical change in the way that businesses are done. Get yourself on some of that purple pound and yeah, grow your business with inclusivity.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us for 3Spoonies on accessible website design. We'd love to know your thoughts in the chat. And don't forget to subscribe for our weekly podcast and leave us a lovely review. You can also buy us a coffee if you like what we do. Today's is coconut mocha boba, by the way. Links, as ever, will be in the show notes. And we'll see you next week for our community questions. Have a great day and keep track of your spoons.